is fair to say that the two greatest impacts that a narcissist has are in the arena of the romantic and the arena of the familial between narcissist parent and victim child. Indeed, it probably, on balance, is that child of the narcissist who potentially is affected the most by the behavior of the narcissist because they are unable, in most instances, to escape it. They might have the benefit of an intervener that protects them and shields them from the worst excesses of the narcissist's behavior, but not always. And it is often the case that the behavior of that narcissist shapes the way that that child not only lives their life as a child, but how their character is formed in relation to how they behave, how they act, what their personality is as an adult. And accordingly, the impact of that parental narcissist is substantial. I'm going to be providing you with a further example of that from Princess Andre, who is the daughter of car crash narcissist Katie Price, as she talks about some of the things that her narcissist mother has done in the past, and also talks about the impact it's had upon her. But also, what you see here is the consequence that can often occur in relation to a narcissist that pursues fame. Where you're dealing with a non-famous narcissist parent, the child may well expose the behaviors of that narcissist when they're older to other members of the family, their own partner and friends, possibly other people in the community. But generally speaking, they lack the capacity for a wholesale exposure to the world at large, or a significant proportion of it, as a consequence of the fact that the world wouldn't be particularly interested in the story. Furthermore, they may also lack the means of widespread exposure as well, because they don't have the ability to utilize media in that way. It's also often difficult for that child victim, who's now an adult, of the narcissist, because the narcissist will invariably cause that child to think, you're remembering it incorrectly. It didn't happen like that. You're overreacting. The typical behaviors of the narcissist to nullify that threat to control. Furthermore, the narcissist may well have already brainwashed other members of the family to consider the child to be the problem and not the narcissist. She always was a bit of a fantasist when she was a kid. Do you remember that time when she thought she could fly? When she said that she'd been to the moon? She's always one for telling tall tales. She's got mixed up again. It can go even further. Despite everything I did for her, or him, he or she has turned into a vindictive little sod, and this is how they repay me. Those of you who are the children of narcissists will be familiar with the ways that the narcissist revises that history, obscures what has gone on, smears you, so that other people don't believe you when you protest that your parent mistreated you, or that basically nobody wants to know because it's in the past. And accordingly, it becomes difficult for those adult children of a narcissist to expose them. And indeed, ultimately, it's not worth your while because it's a breach of your no-contact regime. But where you have a fame-chasing narcissist, the likes of Katie Price or this one's wife, then that fame-chasing narcissist who has sought overexposure, that has allowed the media into every facet of their life, then runs the risk of this huge collateral consequence, which is, when the child is older, the child will expose that narcissist. The child will talk about how they were treated by that narcissist during their childhood. They will talk about how it has affected them. And, moreover, because the narcissist is famous, and the child may have a degree of fame by association, or have even carved it out of their own right, there's likely to be somebody that's interested in publicizing that story, because it brings new light onto the nature of the dynamic between that famous narcissist and their child, and also about the famous narcissist behaviors as a whole. That famous narcissist, when they're letting the media into their world and establishing their fame, they're not thinking as an unaware narcissist of the collateral consequences years later that the child who they dominate and mistreat would ever speak out about it. At the time they do it, the child is under control. They're too focused on their own needs. They're not considering that there might come a point that the media becomes interested in what this child has to say, and therefore their mistreatment of the child becomes something that is the subject of headlines, exposures, television programs, newspaper articles. And this is a problem for the narcissist because exposure is a massive threat to control. And this is something that Katie Price, the car crash narcissist, is experiencing right now. And this is a potential problem for the likes of those fame-hungry attention whores, such as this one's wife, or Chrissy Teigen. And therefore, as I explained to you what Princess Andre has been exposing her mother in relation to, you can also apply this to the other narcissists that you're aware of, who have children, who treat those children as extensions of themselves, who engage in behaviours that they think the world won't know about. And there is, in essence, a ticking time bomb that has been created, because there is a considerable risk that that child will one day, by virtue of the fact of having a famous parent, will speak out about them, and the world will want to listen. Princess Andre has revealed she saw things kids should not during her childhood. An inauspicious start there, isn't it? And is still recovering from her mother's dark times. The 18-year-old, who is the daughter of Katie Price and Peter Andre, has for the first time laid bare the impact of her parents' behaviour. Speaking during episode 1 of her ITV show, The Princess Diaries, which aired recently, she told viewers, "I had so much on my plate at such a young age." She described the impact her mother's subsequent chaotic romances, which of course, as you know, is something which regularly occurs with certain narcissists, that they're in and out of relationships, that they have no due regard for the lack of stability this creates for the child, that they have no regard for the child being introduced to the latest lover who then disappears. Also, she described the impact of her mother's lifestyle on her as she was growing up. She explained that her mother fell into a dark place following her 2018 split from third husband Kieran Hayler, who she shares Bunny 10 and Jet 11 with, after she discovered that he had been unfaithful throughout their marriage. Katie Price herself has previously admitted to attempting suicide and relying on drugs and alcohol as coping mechanisms at the time, and now Princess has told how it affected her. Princess revealed that she has a counsellor and previously couldn't just go to my dad, owing to the fact that her parents, who split in 2009, don't like each other. She said of her mother, "She's so unpredictable, and she lives life, and she doesn't care." A slamming indictment of a parent, suggesting that they don't care. And of course she's entirely accurate in relation to her mother, because although Katie Price thinks that she cares, she doesn't as a consequence of her absence of emotional empathy. But interestingly, that has created a warped perspective for Princess, because while she recognises that her mother doesn't care, she states, "I love that. And I love that mindset of I don't care because deep down I do. I'll get to bed and cry about it." Now, one doesn't know the status of Princess Andre, but it's frequently the case that people that I talk to often say, "HG, one of the things that I love about you is the fact that things don't affect you. You don't give a damn, you just get on with it. I care too much." It's a frequent complaint of the empathic victim that their compassion and caring leaves them hurt and in pain. And that they often say, "I wouldn't want it to be permanent, but there are times when I wish I could just go through life not caring in the way that I do." Notice the impact that her mother's behaviour has had upon Princess. She similarly wants the pain of caring to go away. She continued by explaining, "I do have a counsellor who I see now and then, and I write everything down in my notes. I wish I could have had a happier childhood." That kind of comment is a real burn for the narcissist who believes that they've given that child a happy childhood And for that child years later to say, I wish I could have had a happier childhood, is challenge fuel indeed to that narcissist. I had so much on my plate at such a young age, she continued, and had things at the back of my mind. That is typically the case, that the child victim of the narcissist is often left to parent the parent, that they're left to look after other siblings, that they're not allowed a childhood because they have to deal with adult things. My mum and Kieran split up when I was 10 years old. We were close to him. He was in our lives for 5 years. He did a lot of stuff, and when they split, everything went downhill. Laying bare Katie Price's problems, Princess said she hasn't fully recovered from her mum's breakdown, but revealed she did apologise, false contrition, and they now talk a lot. Mum was heartbroken and she went through a dark time, and it was things kids shouldn't see when we needed our mum there, but she wasn't there because she had her own problems. Or in other words, she lacked the ability to put to one side her problems and care for her children because of her narcissism. Kids in school would ask me about it, and I was like 11, and I would just cry about it in bed. I couldn't just go to my dad because I grew up with them not liking each other. I'm not healed or fully recovered from it. But Mum has fixed herself compared to how she was back then. Well, she hasn't fixed herself because she's a narcissist, but I suspect what Princess is referring to there is the way that Katie Price is functioning better than she once did. She spoke to me about it and she apologised, and I never wanted an apology, but it was a lot that she acknowledged it and she realised she needed to prioritise us. Well, she ought to have known that from the beginning, but she didn't because of her narcissism. Princess also revealed how she used to stay at Katie's Monday and Tuesday nights and Dad Peter's Wednesday and Thursdays. However, the weekends it was whoever's turn it was. Comparing the two households, she added, Mum's house was chaotic. There weren't many rules, few boundaries, but it was go to bed when you want and eat what you want, i.e. the fact that she doesn't really care about what they are doing because she's too busy focused on herself, and she doesn't parent them. She wants to be best friends with the children, to lark about in the same way that a child might do. The fact is that in this program, she talks about the impact of her mother's behaviour upon her, that she wanted a happier childhood, that has put her into therapy. And the fact is that she has found herself in a situation whereby she doesn't like what she has witnessed with regard to her mother, that she sees how chaotic it is. And this is just the first episode, and there's likely to be further exposures throughout the course of this. But this is the risk factor for a narcissist like Katie Price, or This One's Wife, or Chrissy Teigen, that your self-absorbed, chaotic, me behaviours, the chasing of fame, the pursuit of the prime aims, the failure to parent properly, the failure to exhibit emotional empathy, for they have none, not only impacts upon the children with regard to the absence of things that would enable a healthy childhood and a happy one, but it also means that because of their fame, that child is someone that the media would want to listen to, and that they will lay bare later on the poor behaviours of the narcissist parent and expose them in the way that Princess Andre has been doing and no doubt will continue to do so in relation to her narcissist mother, Katie Price. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.